Welcome to Human Skills Project, where my friend Ted Mouradian and I talk about human skills to build good relationship with ourselves and people around us. Ted is an international relationship consultant, established author, and the founder of 2% Factor. Ted, did I miss anything?
Nope, I think you did well. I think that's how we're going to start doing it because everybody should, if they're following us, they should pretty well know.
Yeah.
And you're an academic, supreme academic. So,
Thank you very much. Um, so obviously, uh, as we say it in many episodes, that one of the difficulties in academia, that a lot of the things that we write, sometimes it is devoid of reality. There's a disjoint with the reality. So we want to bring the talk to real talk. That okay, so how this impacts us. We ended our last episode where Ted and I were talking that how in 2023, based on Ted's experience and my experiences, how Canadians' personal attributes can risk Canadian democracy and the social values that Canada stood for so long. So, Ted, do you want to start on that?
yeah, I'm actually a little concerned now because of the way it's going. If you look at the world, we're going more to the right, more, uh, more. I've lost my train.
Like
Um,
right wing, more
Yeah,
right wing,
more
more
right wing,
more extreme. Yeah.
not as democratic as it was. You
Yeah.
look at some of the countries in Europe and that sort of
Mhm.
thing. And what's happened in the States since 2016 has been really crazy. And it's steeping up in Canada because usually in Canada, about 5, 10 years after that trend is in the States, it reaches up here. And it's beginning to do that now, and that worries me. Um, there's a saying in both countries that the United States is a melting pot. So their whole concept that everybody is going to be American. You're
Mhm.
American. You're an African American, Italian American,
Mhm.
American American, right?
Mhm.
And except for the natives or the indigenous, of course, you know. And in Canada, we use the word that we are a mosaic. Now, I kind of like that. And I know it's not utopian to say that because we do have our problems here in Canada, but we do celebrate difference here more than they celebrate that in the United States. Um, we have gay marriage. We have in most of our cities, um, especially Toronto, and that we have the sort of the Greek village and the Italian village, and all of those areas are well established. So we celebrate the fact that I can be who I want to be here. I think the problem I'm seeing is that we are now starting to give the rhetoric that mirrors the United States, and that frightens me. The conservative government, the Conservative Party, just had their caucus meeting, and one of the motions that came out was to limit health care for transgender youth. That's not Canadian in any way, shape, or form, and it frightens me. Are we going to go in the same direction, or are we Canadian enough to say, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. You can spout it, but it's not going to happen up here. So
Right.
that worries
Uh,
me.
right. So I agree with you. Not entirely. I've been to the United States, seen American culture. Frankly speaking, America in many ways scares me. You know, the number of mass shooting, at least in Canada, I don't think that is something that is going to happen anytime soon.
No.
But I say the word anytime soon. Um, It is important for us to recognize that, yes, Canada fundamentally positions itself in contrast to the United States, that it is a mosaic society, not a melting pot. However, in 1962, a sociologist from York University wrote a book called Vertical Mosaic, where Vertical Mosaic, a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So where the sociologist, he's saying that yes, Canada is a mosaic society in comparison to the United States, but it is vertical. At the top of the mosaic, the color is white,
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't disagree with that.
right?
Do you not think it's changing since '62 though?
Obviously, I mean, so many things have changed. In 2021, a report came out, a joint publication from University of Toronto and now Toronto Metropolitan University, previously Ryerson University. Professor Sarah found out that in America, sorry, in Canada, the most hated group at the moment in 2021 are Muslim women. That's right. In G7 countries, of all the G7 countries, Islamophobia is highest in Canada. These are large studies, independent studies. When Trudeau was asked by a journalist about this G7 Islamophobia, saying that, okay, why do you think that in G7 countries Islamophobia is the highest in Canada? He responded, well, misinformation, disinformation, all of that how it is driving it. However, I want to go to the roots of it. Headache can be a symptom, but that is not essentially the cause. That what's going on. In Europe, Viktor Orban called for a weird kind of democracy that he called illiberal democracy. Right? Now, we need to understand these two traditions. Democracy is built on the principle of egalitarianism, rule of law. People are equally treated. That's democratic principle. But in contrast to that, you have liberal market tradition, where, yes, you have free competition. If you're better than somebody else, then you can grow better than the other companies. Then what happens? The market tradition ultimately works towards creating social agent where one agent is more powerful, more dominant than the other one. Very prominent political philosopher Chantal Mouffe calls it the paradox of democracy. You have the market tradition of liberalism, but you have the political ideal of democracy, and they are conflicting. Therefore, an intervention is needed so that, which I'm proud of Canada, that you have universal healthcare. What happens? That in a society, if the liberal tradition continues to go on, obviously, I'm not saying that everybody should be given a free reign to do. But however, I will borrow from the Nobel laureate Indian economist Amartya Sen. Sen would say that, are you enabling a person to materialize the internal potential that one is born with? Denying somebody from universal healthcare is denying one's possibility of materializing what they can do. Which we can see in the United States. In the United States, healthcare is not universal. United
No.
States, you don't have that social mentality that we have in Canada. So we are better in policy-wise. However, as we can say that our neighbor to the south, things that happen there, it seeps in here. So to your point, if the discrimination against the trans becomes like a policy, that is shameful to Canada's legacy of universal healthcare.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And
Mhm.
you can see it moving, especially in Ontario.
Mhm.
Ford is trying to privatize healthcare. I know it. You can
Mhm.
see it in what he's doing
Mhm.
by helping the universal or the universal healthcare fail by not
Mhm.
funding it properly, by not making sure that
Mhm.
it works properly. And
Mhm.
COVID's put a wrench into everything.
Mhm.
But I have to go. I want to go back to
Mhm.
the stat. You surprised me about
Mhm.
the Muslim women. You
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
You really did.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm wondering when you say they're more discriminated against, or what about Islam? Is that the same, or just the women of Islam, not the men of Islam?
No, women of Islam. So basically, there was a study done by this university that general perception of Canadians, that perception-wise, who is the most hated group? I can send you the publication that came
No,
out in
no,
only 2021. Right.
Yeah.
So I was myself, I was like, no, Muslim women. So how in the United States, at one point, the discourse was as such that the black mothers are the what's that the welfare queen,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and what have you. So this is concerning, and also how Muslim women continue to be treating discriminatory treatment at different establishments. Let's say, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Do you think it's because they're wearing the hijab that they stand out so much that people are wondering why would you? I guess it's. I'm thinking, why would you subject yourself to that?
Hmm.
Stand up.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if it's a discrimination or more of a why are you wearing that? Stand up.
Uh,
And
um, so the study Dr. Sarah did, it was more towards, okay, how do these Muslim women go to different establishments? They go for healthcare. They go to employment center to get a job, and and all of that. Mind you, Canada is one of the countries where the Muslim population is growing
mm,
really fast.
yeah,
And Ted, even I would be self put a blindfold fold in our eyes if we are not to recognize this. Is that in the United States and Canada, there is this growing anxiety of great replacement. What
that's
does
right.
it mean?
The
Means
replacement
that,
theory, yes.
yeah, replacement theory, the conspiracy theory, right? So what is happening? White people, for the first time in the history of Canada and United States, in number, they are becoming minor. There are less number of white people than non-white people. And historically speaking, go to history, and there was this I forgot that professor's name, from the United States, who fears possible civil war in the United States. Why so? Go to history and find out at any point in time when a group that were dominant in position in power, politically, economically, culturally, when they become minor group, they just go in there like, okay, we are minor. No, they throw in some kind of fight. They
I
throw
agree.
in some kind of, yeah. So what is happening? The global economy is changing. At one point in time in history, just by being white, we who had the advantage. Okay, you are white. But now you require to be a software engineer, a genetic engineer. You should be able to, because the economy has become so technology mediated. If you don't have the skills needed to make the big buck, they're going to hire a Sundar Pichai from India and make the Google CEO.
That's right.
They're going to hire a brown man and make the Twitter CEO. So the white men and women who were historically in dominant position, they're saying, "Oh my God, the brown man is coming and taking my job. The brown woman is becoming the new neurosurgeon. But well, the brown woman knows how to do a brain surgery. You need to do that." So the technology has changed, and the best example is Britain. This whole Brexit campaign, that, okay, we need to get back our country. We need to get back our country. What has happened? After UK has come out of the European Union, look at the shortage of doctors. Look at the shortage of skilled workers. So
Right.
if you are afraid of the great replacement theory, the number of brown doctors, engineers, artificial engineering, experts, and which is why I like Canada's policy that no, we will need to attract talents. If
That's right.
Canada has to be in the forefront, you need the best AI engineer, you need the best doctor, you need the best neurosurgeon, you need the best researcher. So the anxiety in the white people is real. Go to rural Canada, you will see. Go on.
It is real because
Mhm.
someone's feeding that replacement theory concept into their brains.
Right, right, right,
I
right.
mean,
100%.
once you become comfortable with who you are,
Hmm.
and I've read the Quran,
Hmm.
and I don't believe because I have a lot of Muslim friends, I have a lot of East Indian friends.
Hmm.
Um, I don't believe the average person, the 98%, is
Hmm.
coming here to
Mhm.
wipe out the white man and take over.
Right.
All people want to do is live their lives in peace,
Mhm.
harmony, and
Mhm.
have enough food, maybe
Mhm.
somewhat more than enough food. But I think that we have to be diligent. We have to be
Mhm.
aware
Mhm.
that once you get a seat at the table,
Mhm.
don't stop the other person from getting the seat at the table. Right? And we can live in harmony like nature does, like the animals do. It's really
Mhm.
funny when you look at the animals, for example,
Mhm.
if I go near a tiger's pride or lair, right?
Mhm.
Or a lion's pride,
Mhm.
and I'm unwanted, the lion will go, don't come here.
Mhm.
And I'm smart enough as the other animal to go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to come here. But the lion doesn't chase me and go after my family and go after the lion says, okay, you backed off. Now we're okay. That's part of the law of cooperative action.
Mhm.
It's when I've crossed the line, first, I've got to know I crossed the line.
Mhm.
Second, the person I crossed the line with
Mhm.
has to realize that, oh, yeah, okay, he made a mistake. Now, if he comes again a second time or third time, we're going to escalate it. But that first time, yeah, okay, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. That person's going to be okay. I believe that the concept of the hijab and the Muslim woman does frighten a lot of people because when I was growing up, there were no hijabs around. And that's the only way. And I hate to pick on the women, and I'm not trying to do that. But if I see a brown man, I do not know whether they're Hindu, they're Catholic, they're caustic, yeah, caustic
Mhm.
Christians, or what, or whether they're Muslim until I see their wife beside them, who might have an hijab on, or I see their wife beside them, who might have a sari on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ted, I think here what is really useful, which a lot of social scientists do not do. I mean, I've been trained in social science for a very long time until I became an interdisciplinary researcher. When I try to look at things from multiple vantage points, let's not forget that humans are tribal animals.
Of course, yes.
It's not that because we see people from different culture, something is inherently wrong and evil with the white people to get frightened. No. What I'm trying to say is that their fear, we need to understand the root of their fear. First of all, the modern world, because of its power of technology, because of its expansionist modality that has existed for so long, no place is separated from no place. Canada is not separated from any other country in the world. And you gave a beautiful example. COVID has taught us that we live in a web of intercomplex, interconnected entities. That virus broke out in one country and the entire world was impacted. When there is wildfire in Canada, people in New York cannot breathe. So these national boundaries are artificially erected. So, we are just that one species. Now tell me, of all the organs humans have, skin is the longest, most visible.
And it's the biggest organ
That's the
because
biggest
an
organ.
organ, yeah.
Yeah. So the moment I see somebody who is not my color, it taps into my primal fear. Oh my God, that person is not like me. But I can tell you that there are so many brown men and women who I passionately disagree with. And you are a white gay man. You are one of my best friends. So our friendship came from a place of understanding, respectful reciprocity, questioning, coming to that exposure. And our love for each other came from knowing each other. Not because you're white and I'm not white.
And again, there are gay men who will never get into my house. They're
Right.
not good people, right? So I think that's that whole 90% two or 98% 2% that
Mhm.
in every society, in every culture, in every tribe, there's
Mhm.
the 98 and the 2. That's one
Yeah,
of the things in my
yeah,
research. It's always
yeah,
there. There's the good and the bad. There's the yin and the yang. We've talked about that. But
right.
I think it's important to note
Mm.
that we have to get beyond the skin, get
Mhm.
to know the person,
Mhm.
and get to understand where they're coming from.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily have to agree to where they're coming from,
Mhm.
but understanding where they're coming from brings us to a point of saying, you know what? Yeah, we both bleed the same. We both have the same, issues, and we both have all of those sorts of things. But I think that, oh, have you ever seen there's a little analogy, the world as a village of 100 people? Have you ever seen that? Oh,
Yeah. Mm.
Google that because you will find it fascinating.
Mhm.
So if we take the population of the world and
Mhm.
we reduce it down to a village
Mm.
of 100, then
Mhm.
take those ratios.
Mhm.
30% are white, 70% are other. 30% are Christian, 70% are other. There's something like three people with a computer, or three people have the wealth, nine people with a computer. That's, you'd find it fascinating, and we could actually talk about that.
Mhm.
But the perception is, depending on where you live, and
Mhm.
we've talked about this before,
Mhm.
what you were groomed to grow up to be,
Mhm.
you are the dominant force of the world,
Mhm.
right? Islam is right to people from those countries. Christianity's right from Christian countries.
Mhm.
You know, all of those sorts of things. And we don't realize that maybe we aren't the dominant, especially a white person. We're not the dominant thing worldwide.
Mhm.
And the world is a world economy, as well as we said on the fires and COVID.
Right.
Um, and boundaries are only arbitrary.
Yeah, and a very very modern phenomena. And also, I want to highlight one thing. And thank you for bringing that example of 100 people village. Um, First of all, to your comment on to go beyond our skin is not natural.
That's right.
It is something which comes through our intellectual, spiritual, philosophical evolution. It doesn't happen. Like I have more in common with you than my own 10 other siblings that we came from the same mother's womb. And
And
my sim Yeah.
And let's add age to that too, because I believe age is irrelevant.
Yeah.
I've had friends of mine, I like hanging around younger people more than people my age,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
people my age are so scripted, they're in that mindset that they can't
Hmm.
get out of. A
Right.
younger person like yourself,
Hmm.
oh, you make my brain work. You
Hmm.
make me think.
Hmm.
You make me question,
Hmm.
instead of me talking about my sore joints or my prostate or anything like that for
Hmm.
people my age. No, it's not just color, not
Hmm.
just religion,
Hmm.
age as well, and male, female.
Hmm.
We have to get beyond those boundaries of our tribalism
Hmm.
that go right down to white male or white female. Those are two tribes within our tribe.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm just looking up a book reference. It's called The Female Brain by Luen Brezendine. Fascinating book. I've read it. And Brezendine, mind you, she's a scientist and researcher who has seen 60s, very progressive and all of that. And Brezendine comes to the humble realization that in neurological operation in the brain makeup, the female brain is a book written by Luann Brezendine, that men and women are fundamentally in the neurology, they're different. So the thing
I,
is, but here the difference, by the way, the difference is this: an apple doesn't need to be an orange. That
that's right.
brings to our original point that if you do not be truly you, it will come back at you with a vengeance that will compromise your own well-being and the collective well-being of people around you. So, going back to the point that in Canada, having such Islamophobia toward, sorry, having that negative perception towards Muslim women. You so there's a book written by a Harvard professor. It's called the Weirdest People on Earth. That so the word weird is basically an acronym. That
Yep, you mentioned
W
that in the
stands
last.
for,
Yeah.
yeah, Western, W, we educated, industrial society, rich, and democratic. Mind you, that these people, and this is a fantastic book. One of the attributes he writes in that book, Professor Henrik, is because Western society has been so built on written text, the very construction of our brain has also changed. People who grew up in the West, they look at the world differently. People
Mhm.
in the West, they appreciate nonconformity. People in the West are analytical by their training, not relational, by the way, analytical. They try to take a piece from the big puzzle to understand, but the piece is always what is that saying in English, that the part together is greater than the whole?
Yeah, yeah. The yeah. I know what you mean. You said it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the parts together, like for
Yeah.
example, your kidney, your liver, they're not separate. So I
No.
will not be able to understand kidney by taking the kidney apart without thinking in its, entirety, right? So, question: the history of humanity, and this conflict is also inevitable. Mind you, I'm not vilifying one group or the other. I think Norbert Wiener, the founder of cybernetics, systems dynamics, great guy, great mind. Towards the end of his life, he wrote a book where he predicted a fear that with the technological progress, we are envisioning, mind you, it's way before artificial intelligence. Norbert Wiener thought about a future where we will have automated or mechanized slaves, when we will need our intellectual capacity more to live in harmony and peace. But now we live with godlike technology where it is so easy to deceive with technology, so easy to deceive. Think about the dating apps. Do you think you find compatible partner on a dating app?
I don't think so, and I think you gotta be very careful. I know friends of mine who have spent, like, thousands and hundreds on scam just because they wanted to be loved, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? So
mhm,
it's yeah. No, that's hard. It's interesting, I think we've talked about this before in one of our 3 o'clock in the morning talks, but
mhm,
human skills, and that's why we're doing this project, are gonna be so important 5, 10 years from now because of those machines that you said, those slaves we had. We're going to have skills beyond skills
mhm.
in order to survive, I think, in the next 50 to 100 years. Um, it's kind of frightening, AI, um, but I think that we're destined to go in that direction. It's not going to stop. We aren't going to be able to stop progress. We
Mhm,
haven't so far.
mhm.
That's if the world lasts long enough.
Yeah, but so we have talked about it. I don't think human skills is going to be important in 50 to 100 years. I think human skills in 2023, it has never been this more important than as it is in 2023.
Yeah,
The
that's right.
emotional,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the emotional intelligence, the social intelligence, to be able to see the other person. Um, the great influential historian, the author of the book, Yuval Noah Harari, the Homo sapiens, the Sapiens book, right?
Yeah, yeah, the
In
one we read. Yeah.
Yeah. So Harari argues this, that so the difference between humans and the machine is this: humans are forgetful. You will remember the birth dates of people who are very important to you, close to you. You'll remember the important dates, their details, and etc. But a machine doesn't forget. A machine cannot forget. So there is fundamental difference. Like, for example, if a machine was placed in front of us, just as this camera is recording right now, it's going to record every single thing, and it is going to be able to reproduce as it is, right? Now put an algorithm and ask that algorithm, okay, from these 200 conversations, tell me the psychometric profile of Ted. things Ted likes, dislikes, things Ted cares about, right? That algorithm is going to be far more accurate in understanding your idiosyncratic ways of you being you than probably hundreds of your friends who are literally operating on autopilot. Most people, their attention is hijacked with incredibly powerful algorithms. People go on YouTube for a second, but before they realize they have spent 3 hours.
That's right. Just
And yeah,
yeah.
and the thing, we are not going inside to understand the bells and whistles, things that tick us, make us love, smile, feel sad. We understand us less than we ever did. This was the fear of Herbert Marcuse, that if you convert all humans into a conforming machine and turn them into one kind, that literally in the United States, people have never hated each other as it is now. There was a study done in the past. People may have supported Democrats or the Republicans, but they would marry each other, they would live in their closest neighborhood, they would go to golf together. But now, literally, you can divide people based on their political ideology. People have never hated each other so much.
I know.
So what do you do? I mean, what do you do? So taking into consideration that human skills has never been more important than what it is now,
No, I
if
agree
we
with you.
are
I
to
just
live
think
together.
it just now you're right.
Yeah.
I believe that we need that it's going to be the same 50 years from now because we need to go into that direction of understanding each other, of having that cooperative action, of learning about each other because the world is getting smaller.
Mhm.
We are getting closer, we're moving around easier. Um, the people who are brought up in their one little town and die in their one little town, not understanding what's going on in the world,
Mhm.
they're going to be wiped out at a disadvantage because people who understand that we are the same, as
Mhm.
you said, this is just
Mhm.
it's nothing. It's we have to change, and I think our time is up today. So
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to leave with one observation finally before we go today. Is this? So I was in a conversation with a bunch of graduate students, who use dating app to find, intimacy. And I asked them, what are the biggest advantages and what are some of the disadvantages that you experience? The biggest advantage is that you can get sex pretty easily. That's one thing. It's a matter of a swipe. It's just like Amazon. You order sex. But that's not the problem. It's not the sexual intimacy. What is happening is that and that's in your tenet number one, is that these people, as primordial human need, want to be seen, want to be loved, want to feel that spiritual, intellectual, emotional intimacy, which is not possible based on if people select partners and if the algorithms present partners based on their superficial look, that okay, if you have 18-inch biceps or 8 packs, or if you are beautiful like Julia Roberts, because that's you're not going to find that mental, spiritual, emotional, intellectual intimacy, and it's going to feed into our forever growing emptiness, driving us to these hollow machines that we are running on empty.
that's right.
So I mean, you gotta think, man. I mean, if we don't, we are heading towards the hill, towards the precipice. Things are not going to be
Well, I
that nice.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree, and that'll make a good discussion because when I did do the research, tenant one, that's why it's tenant one, the
Mhm.
most important one.
Mhm.
We need to start celebrating each other. I do that every time I meet a person. It's an event, and we need to get that word out there. When you
Mhm.
see somebody, you smile, you say hi, you open a door, you make them feel
Mhm.
that you're focusing on them, that it's about them. The
Mhm.
more we do that, that ripple effect will change the world. We can
Right.
affect the stream. We
Mhm.
can't control it, but by
Right.
affecting that stream, we can eventually change the flow of the stream,
Right.
and that's
And
really
and
important.
and and our 10 years long relationship, I want to leave with this comment for this episode. There are so many conversations we have had. I don't remember a single conversation that I've had with you that I did not leave energized, stimulated, feeling seen and heard. And the thing is, we also disagree on so many things. But what is it that when we engage in a conversation that we feel that friendship, we feel that bond? What is it, Ted?
It's the fact that we do celebrate each other's right to be us. We celebrate that. I don't try to change you. You don't try to change me. Our discussions are, and remember I said in tenet number 6, acceptance is not necessarily agreement.
Right.
I accept you, my friend, for exactly who you are.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's
you
right.
accept me for exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And if we can get this message, this particular message out to everyone out there,
Mhm.
the world will change.
Right, right. And I use it almost every day, especially when I talk to my son, my older son, that, you don't have to agree with me, but you have to, obviously, by many, many standard from the society where I hail from, I am eccentric. I'm weird. I am, I mean,
I'll say
there's,
that.
yeah. So I tell my son that, I mean, I need you to accept me for who I am. You don't have to agree with me. You know what I
That's right.
mean? So thank you, Ted, for this episode. And until our next episode, everybody and all our audience, have a great time and watch Ted and me grow together and learn more from each other. Have a great day. Bye-bye.